हि विभागोऽयम् अविवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। हि विभागोऽयम् अविवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। देहदेही विभागोऽयम् अविवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। देहदेही विभागोऽयम् विवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। देहदेही विभागोऽयम् अविवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। देहदेही विभागोऽयम् अविवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। देहदेही विभागोऽयम् अविवेककृतः पुरा जातिव्यक्तिविभागोऽयम् यथा वस्तुनि कल्पिताः। Deha of this body, Dehi, and the proprietor of the body. Vibhagaha, the division. Ayam, this. Aviveka, from ignorance. Kritaha, made. Pura, from time immemorial. Jati, of the class or caste. Vyakti, and the individual. Vibhagaha, division. Ayam, this. Yatha, just as. Vastuni, in the original object. Kalpitaha, imagined. Translation. Divisions of generalization and specification, such as nationality and individuality, are the imaginations of persons who are not advanced in knowledge. The purport says, actually, there are two energies, material and spiritual. Both of them are ever existing because they are emanations from the eternal truth, the Supreme Lord. Because the individual soul, the individual living entity, has desired to act in forgetfulness of his original identity since time immemorial, he is accepting different positions in material bodies and being designated according to many divisions of nationality, community, society, species, and so on. I was asked to also cover verse 9, and the translation goes, Sri Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus enlightened by the instructions of Narada and Angira, King Chitraketu became hopeful with knowledge. Wiping his shriveled face with his hand, the king began to speak. So, this is the context of the philosophical instruction. And I must begin with an apology. I was expecting to hear from His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj, but somehow somebody pulled me and put me here. And so, okay. So you just passed the parcel. So I haven't prepared anything. I'm just going to speak from my realizations. First of all, I'm very grateful to be in Govardhan Eco Village. Somehow, by Krishna's arrangement, I only get to come here for 24 hours at a time. I was here last month for 24 hours, and this month, by the grace of Gauranga Prabhu, he just dragged me, and uh, I keep shuttling between Gainesville and Mumbai now for some work, and Govardhan Village falls on the way. In reflecting on this verse and this purport, I want to start with a personal anecdote. Many years back, I think it was 1994, there was an India-Pakistan cricket match. And that particular match was called the Hero Cup. Does anybody remember Hero Cup from the Hero Cup? You remember, right? It was on Diwali day, right around this time of the year. And so I was a young child in Calcutta, and I know the whole city stacked up on fireworks. It was the final match between India and Pakistan. And that day I realized that cricket matches are played so that there is no actual war. You know, through sports, people can show their aggression without causing too much harm. One party loses and they accept it and move on, right? That's the beauty of sports. And so that day there was a cricket match, and somehow everybody assumed that if the Indian team doesn't win, they will come back home to a villain's welcome. But if they win, the patakas won't end. And so on that Diwali day, I remember India won that match. And in the city of Calcutta, the fireworks started about 7 or 8 p.m. and it went on till 1 a.m. in the night. Right? Constant explosions. I was feeling sorry for the dogs and the cats, you know, and the birds. And then I saw that people were still so excited and they ran out of fireworks. You know what they started doing? They started pulling out tires, like used tires, putting it in the middle of the street with whatever they could get, put kerosene on it, and burn. And then in our neighborhood, there was some brilliant guy who used to work in a car garage. And in that car garage, they used, wielding gas. So he filled up a big balloon with wielding gas. And he tied a little firecracker to that and he let the balloon go. And about 1:30 at night, this thing exploded, shattering some windows. Right. After that, the police came out, trying to figure out what happened. And so that was the end of the Diwali that year. And if we look at this verse and we think about why were those people behaving that way? Because somehow they felt victorious about what they considered an enemy country. That you are supposed to be fighting, but you cannot fight because it is not financially viable. So what you do is you create an alternative kind of a fight, which is called cricket. And if you win, that means you have actually won the war, especially on a big festival day, right? And there is some pleasure in giving insult to the other party. And that is based on what Srila Prabhupada explains here. That the Deha and the Dehi, the body and the possessor of the body, works with this subtle thing called identification. Right? So imagine you bought a Mercedes Benz and some person decided that they don't like the fact that my neighbor has a Mercedes Benz and they take a key and they scratch your car. Will it hurt? But if you are the third neighbor, will you be getting your popcorn just to see the drama? It won't hurt, because that subtle thing called the identification or ego is not involved there. The moment we think of something as I or mine, or this is within my circle of influence, or this is within my control, then immediately we start thinking, what is in it for me? Right? And Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains this psychology very well in one verse where he says, Atmendriya Pritivancha Tar Nam Kam. Kam means desire. Atma Indriya, my own senses, when I want to keep, fulfilling my own senses, that is called desire. Krishnendriya Pritivancha Tar Dhare Prem Nam. So when we try to fulfill Krishna's senses, and we live in a state of existence where our mind is wired to fulfill Krishna's senses and Krishna's desires, then it is prem. Prem means real, pure love. In that, there is no dehatma buddhi. So somebody who is in love with Krishna would have probably thought on that India-Pakistan cricket match that it's great that these people have won, but I also feel sorry that those people have lost. Because Krishna explains, Jaya Jayo, Labha Labho, we become Samadarshi, that we are equal minded. We don't go out and burn tires just because we are excited. Right? And so that was the first example. The second example is, I grew up in India till I was 22, and then I went to school, university at Oxford in England. This was my first time outside of India, about 20 years back. And Indians grow up with a mindset which is Pakistan equals bad. And in Pakistan, they grow up with the mindset that India equals bad. Correct? So all jhamela in India somewhere, down the line, Pakistan is responsible. And some Pakistani problems, India is responsible. Right? And when they can't figure things out, they think about America and China. It's a fact of life. So my first time in England, I went to a grocery store. And that was the only, I asked them, where is the Indian grocery store? Where can I buy rice and dal and spices? Haldi, jeera, all of these kind of things I needed. I said, no, there is a Pakistani store there. And for the first time, I had some hesitation, should I go to a Pakistani store? It somehow felt wrong. We grow up like that. And it took me some courage, 1 hour of internal convincing, before I went and walked in. And and for the first time, I saw a Pakistani store that looked like an Indian store, except the things were written in Urdu. Saying, these people are not so different. And, I tried talking to him, and he was so sweet with me. He's like, how can a Pakistani be so sweet to an Indian? I forgot that we were in England. Wow, those fans. And I actually became, friends with that guy. And for the first time, I realized that many of the ideas that we carry in our head are just cultural conditioning and a burden that ingrains this idea that you are this body from a very early age. A very early age, right? And something as simple as our own name. Right? If you call Abhishek, I'll probably just turn around. And there will be 200 other people who will turn around because it's a fairly common name in India. But we have been taught from our childhood that if you respond to this sound, you will be rewarded. That's how you teach dogs and cats their names. We've been taught our names like that, except we don't think about it. Right? And then based on the color of our skin, you are branded either Desi or Chinese or Caucasian, one of those. Right? And that's ingrained. And then somewhere during our childhood, we are taught that these people are our friends and these people are our enemies. So in 1962, there was a India-China, 62 India-China war, right? 62? So there used to be slogan in Bengal, Hindi chini bhai bhai juddho noy shanti chai. We don't want war, we want peace. We are bhai bhai, right? Today, when Chinese students try to come to India, they're stopped because uh, sometimes they're not just students; they're also working as spies. And so, why do people behave like that? The same question comes back because somewhere they not only identify with the things that they're taught during childhood, that you are this race, you are this gender, you are this name, you are this nationality, these are your interests, these are against your interests, and therefore these people are your friends and these people are your enemies. And we believe in that, and then the rest of our lives, we start living like these people are my enemies. If you only took time to go to the other side and see how common we are, these enmities would drop. Right? And the third example I wanted to give today was, years later after England, when I was in the US in Chicago. So it was a nice sunny day. I was sitting in downtown Chicago preparing to teach a class. I'm a professor. And before that class, there's some taxi driver who decided that I didn't belong there. So I was sitting in a little circle island and he kept driving around me screaming, Paki, go home, right? And throwing stuff at me. So, first of all, I wish I could tell him I'm not a Pakistani. That I felt bad about Pakistanis, if that's what they have to face, I'm sorry. But there is this American who thinks that brown people are destroying their country. And right now it is election season, so I can, you know, say this. That on the one hand, a lot of people in the villages in America think that these immigrants are coming and taking our jobs. Right? These immigrants are coming and taking our jobs. On the other hand, they say that these immigrants don't have jobs, they are just simply leeching off our taxes. It's like, man, decide. You can't have it both ways. You either have a job or you're on dole, right? You can't take two. But they don't know. There is just that resentment in their hearts that if somebody doesn't look like me, if they are not John, Brown, White, Wood, one of those last names, if they have a long name, especially on their name tag, their names won't fit on their name tag. That's running American joke for South Indians. The moment they see difference, something comes up in the heart thinking that this is not me or this is not mine. And that is aviveka, explained in this verse. Viveka means proper discrimination, proper analysis. Aviveka means I'm not able to think clearly. And therefore, I am going to go with an emotional reaction, which usually is fairly stupid. There is a reason we have two sides of the brain, the emotional side and the rational side, right? They're meant to be balanced. But the moment we do not take one, if you're only clinically rational, you will end up killing half the world. If you are simply emotional, you will end up going in circles. Nothing will work. There has to be a balance between the two, and that is Viveka Krita Pura. Krita means made from time immemorial. It is the natural order. Jati Vyakti Vibhagoya. Vibhaga, Bhaga means division. Vibhaga means complete division, and the word V, V in Sanskrit can become non or it can mean great. So, for example, Jai means victory. Vijay means great victory. Okay. Vairagya, you have heard, detachment. V, raga. V means non. Raga is attachment. V raga means non attachment. But V raga in the other sense, if you take V as great, then V means so great detachment from the material world is equal to great attachment to the Lord. V raga in one word. That's the beauty of the Sanskrit language. And I encourage those who have time and capability, please learn this language. It's going to change your life. Right? So Viraga, Vibhaga is very similar. Vibhaga means divided based on this Deha Dehi Vibhaga. So Deha Dehi Vibhaga means, we think that we are this body, and then we think that, okay, this is my land, and I am going to fight for this land. Oh, this is my language, and I'm going to fight for this language. It's important to protect your land and your language and your culture and your heritage, right? When you're under attack. But to do it any other way is aggression. And it is a way to get deeper and deeper into bodily consciousness. Yatha vastuni kalpita. The word kalpa means imagination. Kalpa means imagination. All of us, all of us, every day spend some time imagining things. It's just a fact of nature. I was walking through the Goshala today on our way to the temple, and I saw some cows come because they think that this guy is a nice guy. They're imagining things. And then another cow I tried to pet, and it's like, bugger off, kind of, right? Let me eat in peace. So the other cow probably thought that I'm going to disrupt its meal, right? And so every animal, every plant, every insect, everybody lives in a certain imagination of themselves, a certain imagination of how the world works. There is a famous phrase, "Dunya zalim hai," right? That is an imagination. But if you go to a Paramhamsa and you ask the same question, what is this world? He will say, Shunnaitam Jagat Sarvam, Govinda Virohename. That same imagination of the world changes based on our consciousness, right? So for most people, the imagination is Jati Vyakti Vibhaga. Jati means I belong to this class. Because, and last point for today, because, being alone is very scary. So therefore, we try to look for things or entities that are like us. If there were no lights in Govardhan Eco Village and you were trying to move from one place to another, you would be afraid that you will get a snake or a leech, right? Because that's a different jati and it gives you fear. But the moment you're with another person, even if it is dark, the fear will become half. If there are 4 people, the fear will become quarter. And therefore, we look for entities of the same class so that our survival is increased and our fear goes down. This is the logic of jati. And this is explained very nicely by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his very first book called Bonge Samajikota. That where does society and sociality come from? It comes from a need to form a class so that your interests and your protection is ensured. That is why it's ingrained in nature. But it is a double-edged sword. If you become so ingrained in your jati that you ignore the ecosystem of all other jatis that make the whole thing work, then your jati is going to die. And this is what we humans are doing right now. We are exploiting the planet for our jati at the cost of all other jatis. We don't care. If you take a flight over Delhi, you will see Yamuna is filled with foam from the factories, chemicals that are getting dumped in the river. You take any drive around any city in India, you will see people throw trash outside. Come on, this is our beautiful country. Why are we doing this? Right? That's because we think, okay, my jati is doing well, but the sweeper jati is different. I have paid my taxes, they will take care of it. Right? Or the fish that is ending up eating all the plastic, they are different. You don't think that people who eat fish they end up consuming microplastics because our waters are polluted, right? And this kind of degeneration is actually a symptom of jati vyakti vibhaga, right? So this verse, in a sense, has the root cause of the problem of us and them thinking, right? This is us, that is them. And that us and them thinking, and this is a very subtle philosophical point, and this is the last point I'm going to make, and then we'll take some questions. Think about it this way: us and them thinking is rooted in the idea of either or thinking. There are there are some methods of thinking. One kind of thinking is either or, either you win or I win. The second kind of thinking is and both thinking, that both you and I can win. When we are on the level of our ego, then it is usually either or thinking. Either India wins or Pakistani wins. Either you're an Indian store or a Pakistani store. Either you're an American or you're not. And both thinking gets rid of that requirement. And both thinking says that here are areas where I can compromise so that both you and I can thrive. And for those of us who have been through marriages, we know. And for those of us who have been through the brahmachari ashram, we know this even better. Right? Sometimes you're, in a place with 72 people and everybody has their own agenda and their own way of thinking. And it's so easy to rub toes. Right? My friends in Saffron? Correct? And so the solution is never easy, but the solution is possible, which is to consciously get out of the stage of kalpa. Kalpana means to imagination, and to see things as they are, and to understand that, hey, that sometimes we are acting out of instinct, but instinctive actions are not necessarily in our interest, right? So when that thing gets ingrained in our brains, then we start opening up to bigger possibilities in life. So I thank you very much. This was an accidental class, but I'm very grateful to be here and share some thoughts. We go till 8:50. So we have about 20 minutes for reflections, realizations.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Prabhuji, like you were saying, either there is you win or I win or both of us win. And in your class, you were also mentioning about how Pakistanis face discrimination and things like that, and you feel sorry for them. So, Praji, when we go now in many places in India, when we speak to people, when we have been asked many times about this concept of secularism, many people say that if only you think that both of us can win and the other party wants that they only should win, then how will this work? Many times we get asked. And also when we see that people are actually doing bad to the society, when other religions they are trying to convert, or in recent times I had been asked many times on love jihad and this kind of cases, and how they are manipulating our people, and so many things happening in villages in South India, where the entire SC community is converted to Christianity, and so many blunders are happening. How do we see that both of us can win, and how should we act in this situation, and how should we not be enemies when so much things are happening?
You asked almost 7 questions. I will respond to that, but let me hear the other question as well. If anybody else has that question. Yeah.
Prabhu, you were explaining this word aviveka, emotional thinking and rational thinking.
Aviveka.
Yeah, aviveka. So my question is that, you know, How, like, you said that in your class that we have, with your mind, we have formed, something about some people. We have already decided what type of a people. But sometimes, because of that nature, you judge people and act because of your own intuition or your own thinking. Then it gets affected in relationship. I'm talking about relationship,
Agree.
between. Because one person has already formed his own view about other person and is creating a problem between the relationship. How do you handle that?
Those two questions are related, actually.
Really?
I think so. I think the root cause is bias and prejudice. I can't hear you. There's so much echo.
Because the principle is same, you're going to answer. This on divisiveness, right?
Yeah,
This
but
body.
yes, that is there.
So should I add one more question?
Yeah, please.
So my question is, now we are like-minded people because we have clear concept about that. No, not realized, but we are not this body, we are this soul. So that part, but still, it's not that you can get along with everyone.
True.
So what is that? How do we keep our sanity or, behave properly? That is not possible that, everyone will like me.
Very correct.
So this is my question.
Okay. So I want to go back to the very first question about Indian secularism and start by saying that, we all sing Jana Gana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He, Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, Punjab Sindh. You know the meaning of this song? There is no devotional angle. The song is a devotional song. It is a devotional song. Rabindranath Tagore wrote this song as the Mangalarti of India. He called the song the morning song of India. He called that song the morning song of India. And if you look at the song, there are 5 verses, out of which only the first verse got adopted as the Indian national anthem. Right? What is that? I'll just quickly decode, and then that will respond to your point on secularism. Adhinayaka means the hero among heroes. Who is the hero among heroes of Jana Gana Mana? The hero among heroes of the hearts and minds of the people. Who decides the destiny of India? Bharata Bhagya Vidhata. Right? The different regions of India wake up to your holy name. Tava Shubha Name Jage. Who wakes up Tava Shubha Name Jage? Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Banga, Vindhya, Himachala, Jamuna, Ganga, Uchchala, Jaladhi Taranga means South India. All of this wakes up to your holy names. Tava Shubha Ashisha Mage seeks your blessings. Gahe Tava Jaya Gatha, they sing your glories. Jana Gana Mangala Dayaka. जो जनगण को मंगल देता है दायक जय है भारत भाग्य विधाता. The in the third verse of that song, Rabindranath Tagore writes, He chiro sarathi taborato chakre mukharito ahodino ratri daruno biplava majhe tava shankhadhani baje shankata dukkha trata. Okay? He chiro sarathi. भारत में चिर सारथी कौन है? Who is the eternal charioteer of India? I didn't say, you said. Your secularism answer. हे चिर सारथी तब रथ चक्र, आपका रथ का चक्र में मुखरित अहो दिनो रात्रि दारुणो विप्लव. विप्लव means battle. दारुणो विप्लव, in the midst of the biggest battle, तव शंख ध्वनि बाजे, आपका शंख बजता है. So whose reference is this? Whose chariot and whose conch shell reverberates? Bhagavad Gita, Shankata Dukkha Trata. You save us from Shankata, Dukkha, misery, Trata. Jana Gana Patha Parichayaka Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata. Jana Gana Patha Parichayak, those who show the way forward, is Bharata Bhagya Vidhata. So this is our national anthem. Is it secular or not? First question. Because some people complain that Vande Mataram is not secular enough, so our Constituent Assembly said, fine, we will adopt Jana Gana Mana. Right? Secularism means you encourage all kinds of spiritual life thrive. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that according to the difference in Acharya, according to the difference in history, according to the difference in books, there will be spiritual practices in Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Spiritual practice overall is meant for the upliftment of human society. Now imagine we are all children in a class and the teacher gives us individual gifts, but in envelopes, and you get a blue envelope and I get a red envelope. And now we start fighting on the color of the envelope. And then we are trying, you are saying that red envelope is better than blue envelope, right? And therefore you should give away your bad envelope to me and I will let you be in my group and we'll open our envelope together. That's essentially what religious conversion is like. That what I have is better than what you have. If you join my club, I will let you be a part of my privilege, right? Your is not good enough. That's the premise of religious conversion, correct? So at the in the long-term game, it is simply a distraction. But at the same time, the Bhagavatam explains, Abhishandhaya yohimsam dambham matsaryam eva. So the practice of bhakti, where the abhisandhi, the motive is dambha, pride, matsarya, envy, himsa, violence, is bhakti in tamagun. It is bhakti, but it is in tamagun. So where it is not about secularism or non-secularism. Secularism and non-secularism is like, salt and pepper. If somebody comes and tells me salt and pepper are the only spices, I will not agree. There are many varieties, right? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in an article called Dayananda Saraswati and Tantra Shastra. So then in that article, Thakur explains that there is this reformer known as Dayananda Saraswati. You must have heard of his name. Arya Samaj. And he says that Dayananda Saraswati is criticizing Tantra Shastras, saying that Tantra Shastras have so many gory things. It's not meant for civilized people. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Dayananda Saraswati does not understand Tantra Shastras are composed by Lord Shiva, who is a great Vaishnava. And he has composed those because he is in charge of species that are in Tamagun. So he has created the steps required for those who are in deep tamas to gradually elevate themselves. And then he says, we Vaishnavas should come to the rescue of our Shakta brethren when they cannot defend themselves, knowing the full value of what they have. Imagine this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is a great Vaishnava, saying that we Vaishnavas should come to the rescue of our Shakta brothers and sisters when they cannot defend themselves. Because Tantra Shastras are given by Lord Shiva for the upliftment of people, we should honor it, respect it, and defend it. Not that Vaishnavas should practice it because they are already transcendental to it. So, in every religion, there are not cases. I have not seen one religion on planet Earth where there are no nutcases. And the majority of the people are nice, they just want a living. I just came back from a week in Kazakhstan representing Hinduism. It's a Muslim country. They gave me royal treatment, right? Everybody practically I interacted with were from Egypt, from Arabia. They were all Muslims, but they were very nice to me. They didn't try to convert me, right? I asked very sincere questions to them. They asked me very sincere questions about Sanatana Dharma. When I explained, they were very happy. They explained what they were practicing. And we concluded that at the end of the day, if we are developing love of God, you can spend an hour and a half or 2 hours chanting your 16 rounds, and they will spend 2 hours doing namaz 5 times. But if it is developing love of Godhead, and then one last point I want to make there is once Srila Prabhupada was in Tehran with his disciple Atreya Rishidas. And in the morning, the azan started going on the microphone. You know the story? The azan started going on the microphone. Allah, And Atreya Rishi was very upset for some reason. And he started telling Prabhupada, Prabhupada, just look at this, demonic, da 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 da. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, this is so beautiful. They are appreciating the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their language and their culture. You want to make me sectarian? This is what Srila Prabhupada told his disciple. And so, on the one hand, you will find people who will try to force their religion on others, the externals of their religion, because they have not understood the essence. On the other hand, you will find people who know the essence of their tradition, and they will be able to share things. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that a sincere seeker will see that, oh, this is how this person is appreciating the same divine in their language, in their culture, in their method. And this should deepen my faith in the form of the Lord that I am attracted to. Because at the end of the day, we are not driven by yukti, we are driven by ruchi. Right? Now the same thing comes down to interpersonal relations. Right? So to reflect on your questions, Mataji. At the end of the day, we form opinion of other people and then we either avoid them. Sometimes, if we see they're dressed in a certain way, we have our internal mechanism, tuck, 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 and it's like, okay, this person is like this. Right? And there are two things we forget. One is that other people might have similar judgments about us. And when we are judged, we don't like it. And it's always better to treat others the way we want to be treated. It's a basic, baseline of civilization, number one. And number two, essentially what we are, real education is not only the removal of ignorance, but it is also shedding bias and prejudice. Real education is shedding bias and prejudice. Somewhere we all carry some biases and prejudices within us, right? The moment, and this is progress in spiritual life, the moment we say, okay, we have differences, I may not like this person because of these natures, but I also see these common things. And one time, my spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Goswami, pointed out, looking at the story of Indra and Vritrasura, that Vaishnavas are those people who can see good qualities even in demons. Vaishnavas are able to see good qualities even in demons. And so one day we want to aspire to be on that level. Right? And about your question, Prabhu, can you repeat that question one more time?
We don't remember we have done harm to anyone.
Who?
In a relationship. But there is some natural dislike for each other.
I have a theory for that. It is based on Rupa Goswami. I haven't, maybe Gauranga Darshan Prabhu can correct me if I'm wrong. But my theory is that we all have an eternal relation with Krishna. We also have an eternal relation with each other in reference to Krishna. Right? Like, for example, just because Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Ma are parents of Krishna, not that they don't have any romantic love between each other. At the end of the day, they are husband and wife. So there has to be some, Only when that rasa becomes materially oriented, it's prakrita rasa. When it is Krishna centered, it's aprakrita. So my theory is that all souls, the infinitesimal amount of souls that are there in creation, have a secondary relation with each other with reference to Krishna. And we are all experiencing some rasa even between ourselves. Right? Like with my father, when he tries to be the father, then something goes wrong. When he's my friend, then things work out. Right? So then I naturally understand that the sambandha between us is that of Sakhya rather than Vatsalya. That these natures are there. And if you look at the ambit of rasas, there is also Jugupsha, there is Bhayanaka, right? And in this material world, we have hatred, we have fear, right? And they're always in relation to some souls. So those rasas play out in relation to certain souls, even in this world. At least that's my theory. I don't know. I would love to hear any comments on this. That we are here in this world for a very short time. We are meant to experience all this scope of rasas. There are some souls that we'll have shringar with. There are some souls that we'll have other rasas with. Some we'll have vatsalya, some we'll have sakya, some we'll have jugupsa, some we'll have bhayanak. Right? These rasas will happen. And it's just that this soul has been sent by Krishna for me to experience this rasa in this material world. I think of it this way. Because at the end of the day, every situation we face in our lives is designed for our growth. Every situation we face in our life is designed for our inner growth. And Krishna creates this situation so that we can experience the ambit of rasas for our growth so that one day we may serve him perfectly. So these things, the tax man, the politician, the police, these people come and, other species like snakes and leeches, tigers, they come, they give us these rasas. When a tiger approaches you, you don't feel vatsalya. It's usually bhayanak. So that soul and this soul is meant to experience that rasa. And somewhere, Brahmando Brahmite, we are experiencing this rasa now. So it's not that particular soul, it's just the relation. Krishna has somehow arranged this. Maybe the rasa will change. The tiger will have a baby and I'll raise the baby and the baby will, I don't know. Right? So like Jai Vijay, they have a rasa of servitude. Then for some time they play the rasa of, of an enemy. So Krishna, what he wants to do with individual souls, and he is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Krishna essentially is the Murti, the embodiment of Akhila Rasa Amrita, the sum total of immortal rasas. That is Krishna, right? And so each of us have that. We are helplessly attracted to that. All we need to do is hear. But we are also attracted to Krishna doesn't exist in a vacuum. Shango Pangastra Parshada. Krishna is always there with associates, and these associates always have relation with each other. Krishna's friends, they are competing, who wins the race. So they have, within Vatsalya Rasa, they are experiencing that. So we all experience rasas with other souls when we do it in a way where Krishna is the center and Krishna's satisfaction is the key. Then those rasas are transcendental. That's why service to Vaishnavas is so essential. That, we are experiencing rasas, and then, sometimes kitir pitir will happen. It is also for the pleasure of the Lord. Like sometimes Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita were fighting, and Kaviraj Goswami says it's prema kalaha. So they were fighting for the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who would just sit in the corner and laugh at them. He was just watching the drama. Right? It's exactly 9, so I'll stop here. Oh, you have one more? If somebody is hungry, you can go.
This is which I have a this thing. You said that we should, in your class I understood that we should not make a difference in everything. But sometimes animals also Krishna's part in battle. They also carry the soul. But they create so much of problem, fear. I'm talking about a dog. Thank you for laughing. I understood. I'm talking about a dog. Dogs are here. The children are here, school children. We have fear the dog is biting the children. But then we are not.
Dogs beat children here?
Yeah, they once bit them because obviously.
Mad
not,
dog.
Yeah.
Mad dog or
No, not mad dog. Yeah. So we have two parties. One party favoring the dog. The dog is a part of Krishna, should be taken care. And another party like me saying, no, we have to do something about it. I really want to know how to deal with this.
I didn't plan to get sucked into management here.
No, nothing. No manager. Just I want to know, Prabhu, because.
Philosophical answer.
Yeah.
Philosophically, the dogs are huh? What?
Management is sitting here.
The dogs are probably thinking that I'm just guarding people here, eating some bunnies and protecting this land. What about these big fat monkeys who put fences all around and tell us what to do? Right? You're kidding. But once I took a long walk with Maharaj. This was about 10 years back. And the dogs were coming and they were howling all night.
Yeah.
People had a difficult time sleeping. And so that problem came up that too. So I'm just hearing a recurring pattern here. I cannot favor one party or another. I cannot give a clear judgment. But if I were you, first of all, I would ensure that children are protected. And my experience is stray dogs, once you start giving them food, they become very loyal. Then they think that you are their master and they protect you. Right? So if you get rid of them, it is nature's way of arranging security. Because dogs have a very strong sense of territory. They go and mark trees with their scent, and they know other dogs will not come in. And they know that if somebody is coming in whose smell they don't recognize, they start barking in the middle of the night. So that is the first point to consider. The dogs are nature's arrangement for security. Number one. Number two, if we look at the example of Shivananda Sen and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Vaishnavas were also divided between two parties at that time, 500 years back. But Shivananda Sen kept feeding the dog, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved it. And so my experience is animals don't show aggression unless they are traumatized. Somewhere the dog that bit, there are two things. One is they go mad. Sometimes they have a brain disease. The other thing is when they are traumatized, when they are very young. And in India, it is very common and very unfortunate that small puppy is a jhapar maar diya, say the rocks they throw, right? So when dogs feel that, they don't know, they don't have language, they don't understand, they think big monkeys. That's what we are, right? Gives us food, we have to depend on each other. That's how they think. But when they feel betrayed by humans, then they don't hesitate to go and attack. And even those dogs that are aggressive can be cured psychologically with kindness and compassion. There has been n number of cases and there are studies on this, right? And number three, this is a bit of an Avadhuta perspective, but I will nevertheless share it. That, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu showed us a method of recreating tirthas everywhere. Because by the time Gauranga Mahaprabhu went to Vrindavan, that whole place was decimated by invasions. He jumped into somebody's rice paddy and said, this is Radhakund. His grand guru, Madhavendra Puri, was running around. And what had happened is during these invasions, the deities of Krishna were buried underground. Right? And when we hear the Goswamis running around the forest, Krishna, where are you? They're not only searching for Krishna, but they're also unearthing deities and recreating pilgrimages. And the idea of recreating pilgrimages goes back to Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita themselves. Like when Mahaprabhu was running to go to Vrindavan, Nityananda Prabhu tricked him, kept him in Shantipur, and convinced everybody that Shantipur is Vrindavan. And now you tell me, if Nityananda Prabhu says Shantipur is Vrindavan, is Shantipur Vrindavan or not? And Gauranga Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, that temple is considered Sri Kshetra, which is Kurukshetra in a sense, right, where Krishna meets. But Gauranga Mahaprabhu transformed the whole place into Vrindavan. So Vrindavan is something that can be recreated in many places. It has its own set of laws. On that same principle, Govardhan Eco Village has been created. That this place is Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani is the ultimate authority. And she doesn't discriminate between a snake, a dog, and a human. Everybody has space under the shelter of Srimati Radharani. And from that perspective, difficult situations that occur during our stay in Vrindavan are ultimately meant for our own purification. And if there are difficult situations that are arising, if we are in the state of Vrindavan consciousness, then we understand that these situations are arranged by Krishna so that we may, again, all situations are designed for our inner growth. This situation is designed for Krishna for our inner growth. Maybe the dogs are barking in the middle of the night because there are thieves coming in, right? My sleep may be disturbed, but these people are doing their duty. So, as I said, I cannot take one side or another, but those are some reflections and realizations.
Thank you.
I don't know if it makes sense. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I don't feel qualified to add on to this answer, but I was reading a purport yesterday from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, and it very much summarizes this. So I'm just going to read some of it out, if that's okay. So it says, in the previous verse, it was explained that living entities should be honored by charitable gifts and friendly behavior. And in this verse and in the following verses, the description of different grades of living entities is given, so that one can know when to behave friendly and when to give charity. For example, a tiger is a living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Supreme Lord is living in the heart of the tiger as Supersoul. But does this mean that we treat the tiger in a friendly manner? Certainly not. We have to treat him differently, giving him charity in the form of prasad. The many saintly persons in the jungles do not treat the tigers in a friendly way, but they supply prasad, foodstuffs to them. The tigers come, take the food, and go away just as a dog does. According to the Vedic system, a dog is not allowed to enter to the house. Because of their uncleanliness, cats and dogs are not allowed within the apartment of a gentleman, but are so trained that they stand outside. The compassionate householder will supply prasad to the dogs and cats who eat outside and then go away. We must treat the lower living entities compassionately, but this does not mean that we have to treat them in the same way we treat other human beings. The feeling of equality must be there, but the treatment should be discriminating. Just how discrimination should be maintained is given in the following 6 verses.
Thank you. Thank you for. Okay.
Yes, true.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank
Very
you.
grateful to be here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Wonderful. Yeah, I want to meet.
Yeah. I